Hey curious people, welcome back to the Curiosity Kingdom. Today we'll be continuing with our season 2, and this time on season 2 we are doing the United Nations Explained. In this video you're going to learn a lot more things like how many members are there in the UN, how to become a member state, what is veto, what are the organs of the UN, how the UN was formed, and so on. So you're going to learn a lot. Watch this video till the end and let's begin. But before we begin, follow us on our various social media handles like our Facebook page, our Twitter handle, our Quora page, and our website at www.curiositykingdomweb.blogspot.com. What is the United Nations? The United Nations is an international organization whose aim is to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations and international cooperation, and it is the largest, most familiar, most internationally represented, and the most powerful intergovernmental organization in the world. When and how was the UN formed? Background. Prior to United Nations, there were other international organizations too. At the end of World War I, Woodrow Wilson came up with the Treaty of Versailles, in which there was the Covenant of the League of Nations. When 42 nations got it ratified from the parliament, it formally created the League of Nations. But the League of Nations drastically failed and was unable to control the Japanese invasion of Manchuria and China and the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. Further, it was also unable to stop the Second World War. Formation. After the failure of the League of Nations in 1939, the US State Department came up with another concrete plan for another international organization. In 1941, Franklin D. Roosevelt, with Winston Churchill and Harry Hopkins, drafted the Declaration by United Nations. They incorporated Soviet suggestions. Later in 1942, Franklin D. Roosevelt, with Winston Churchill, Maxim Letnevo, and T.V. Soong, signed a short document which later came to be known as the UN Declaration. Later, the United States of America, China, the UK, and the Soviet Union, also known as the Big Four, at the Dumbarton Oak Conference from 21 September 1944 to 7 October 1944, they agreed on the aim, structure, and functioning of the UN. On 24 October 1945, the UN Conference on International Organization was opened, in which the 50 governments got involved in drafting of the UN Charter. Later, the UN officially came into existence on 24 October 1945 upon the ratification of the UN Charter by the 5 permanent members of the Security Council and by a majority of other 46 signatories. The first session of United Nations General Assembly was convened on 10 January 1946 in the Methodist Central Hall in London and included representatives of 51 nations. How does the United Nations works? The United Nations works through its 5 organs. These are the UN General Assembly, the United Nations Secretariat, the International Court of Justice, the Economic and Social Council ECOSOC, and the Security Council. In addition to it, there is another organ which is the Trusteeship Council, but it is no longer in force. The United Nations General Assembly. It is the main assembly of the United Nations consisting of all the member states. The General Assembly decides on important questions such as those on peace and security, admission of new members, and budgetary matters. Apart from the budget, all the decisions or the resolutions made by the United Nations General Assembly are non-binding. It elects the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, all the members of the ECOSOC, and the 15 judges of the International Court of Justice. Each country has one vote. Following the proposal from the United Nations Security Council, the United Nations General Assembly can make the new UN Secretary General and admit new members to the United Nations. The United Nations Secretariat. The UN Secretariat consists of the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, and a staff of international civil servants worldwide. It provides studies, information, and facilities needed by the UN bodies for their meeting. It also carries out tasks and is directed by the Security Council, the General Assembly, and the ECOSOC and other UN bodies. The Secretary General acts as a de facto spokesperson and leader of the United Nations. The position is defined in the UN Charter as the organization's chief administrative officer. The International Court of Justice. Established in 1945, located in Hague, the International Court of Justice settles disputes between states and gives advisory opinion on international legal issues. It consists of 15 judges elected by the United Nations General Assembly for a term of 9 years. The President and the Vice President are elected by the members of the court every 3 years by secret ballot. The first case was submitted in May 1947 by the United Kingdoms against Albania. The United Nations Security Council. The Security Council is in charge with maintaining peace and security among countries. While the other organs of the United Nations can only make recommendations to the member states, means their decisions are not binding, the Security Council has the power to make binding decisions that member states have agreed to carry out under the term of the Article 25 of the UN Charter. The Security Council is made up of 15 member states consisting of 5 permanent members, which are the P5, China, France, the United Kingdom, United States, and Russia, and 10 non-permanent members elected by 2-year terms by General Assembly. The 5 permanent members hold veto power over resolutions in UN. We'll discuss about it shortly. The Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. The Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, assists the General Assembly in promoting international economic and social cooperation and development. ECOSOC has 54 members who are elected by the General Assembly for a 3-year term. The President is elected for a 1-year term. The Council has one annual meeting in July, either held in New York or in Geneva. ECOSOC's functions include information gathering, advising member nations, and making recommendations. And now we come to the last organ, the Trusteeship Council. The aim of the Trusteeship Council was to look after the development of the people living in trust territories or colonies. It also promoted their independence and self-governance. When the last trust territory, Palau, got independence, it became no longer in force. Now we come to the special agencies. The United Nations has 70 specialized agencies which work in various sectors of the societies and do reforms, provide loans, and various other things. From these 70s, I would like to mention some. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, the World Bank, and the World Health Organization, WHO. The members of the United Nations. At present, there are 193 member states in the United Nations. The last one added was South Sudan. In addition to them, Holy See and the State of Palestine are 2 other observer states. Observer states get the privileges to participate in the function of the United Nations but are not allowed to cast vote. In order to become a UN member, a country submits its application to the United Nations Secretary General. Then the United Nations Security Council considers it, and if it gets 9 of the 15 affirmatives and no veto, then it goes to the United Nations General Assembly, where if 2/3 of the members agree, then the country becomes a member of the United Nations. What are the SDGs? The SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, are a collection of 17 global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The SDGs, set in the year 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly, are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. These include goals like no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, partnership for the goals, and so on. What is the veto power? The veto power in the United Nations Security Council is the power given to the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council to vote or fail any substantive resolution. The supporters of it claim that it is very much responsible for maintaining peace and international stability, whereas the critics say it's undemocratic and refuses the will of the majority. In addition, the P5 are indirectly free to do things which other nations cannot. So now let's discuss the pros and cons of the UN. The positives. It is successful in preventing another world war, has done a lot of humanitarian reforms in Africa and other weaker regions. It has improved global trade. It preserves historic, cultural, architectural, and natural sites. It has worked in improving literacy and education. It supports countries to cope up with climate change, and it has worked quite well towards assisting refugees. Negative. A weak International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice resolves dispute, but the verdicts given are not binding. That is, it is not compulsory for nations to obey their decisions, making the International Court of Justice ineffective. Undemocratic. The United Nations General Assembly decisions like the ICJ are not binding. Even if it has 1 vote against 192, the power lies in the hand of the P5 countries in the United Security Council, making them free to do whatever they want. In addition to this, the P5 shows the powerful countries of 1945. But from then, things have changed a lot. Countries like India and Japan don't have the veto. It is hard for new countries like Kosovo to become members of the United Nations because they want the approval from all the P5 countries, which is very tough. And by this we come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned something new. If yes, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. New to the channel, don't forget to subscribe it. Follow us on our various social media handles. Visit our Quora page and our Facebook page. We have started posting new videos on our Facebook page also. So till the next time, keep learning, keep asking, and stay curious.